The Last Patrol, Chapter 15, Mike Waters. It's early the following morning, one day before heading out to war, and a gray mist hovers low over the ocean. Tang sits pierside with the gangplank bridging the quarterdeck to shore, their only connection between the shifting waters and terra firma. Ensign Mike Waters, the weapons officer in charge of torpedo maintenance and repairs, stands watch on the quarterdeck as the import OOD. Mike's appearance is striking in its contradictions. At 6 foot tall, 135 pounds, he's rail thin except for a bulbous, egg-shaped head. His face is like a puffy, featureless mask, like padding laid over bones to conceal all structure. Equally incongruent is his smile, which always seems a bit forced, never quite genuine. But his cynical eyes betray the smile. Out from nowhere, a raven lands upon the gangplank rail, only a few feet away from Mike. He stares at it. Amazing. It's totally at ease, like it's familiar with me. The raven rests for a time, then flies off to seaward. O'Kane emerges from the forward deck hatch and strides across the wooden deck planks toward Mike. Oh shit. Hurriedly, Mike tucks his shirt and checks his gig line, then snaps to attention and salutes his commanding officer. Good morning, sir. I'm off to see Admiral Lockwood, says his captain. I'll be back in a couple hours. Make sure the refit is accomplished smartly. I've delayed all work on the installation of the new VHF, UHF antennas. Where it is, shipyard commander, Captain Irvin, is on the warpath over this. If he comes over, don't let him bully you into restarting installation. This is one of the items I'm bringing up with the Admiral. Inform the yard workers and have them stand by for my instructions when I return. Permission to go ashore. He salutes the American flag on the fantail. Mike returns the salute and holds it. Permission granted, sir. The ship bell sounds out. Ding, 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 ding. Tang departing. As O'Kane exits down the gangplank, Mike leans over the rail towards his commanding officer and calls out, Don't you worry, Captain. I'll make sure everything gets done on schedule, sir. You can count on me. He wants to add something else, but thinks it would be laying it on a bit too thick, making the whole of his efforts seem disingenuous. Glad I caught myself. Mike grins, pleased with himself. Chapter 16, The Admiral. With a quick and incisive mind to match his bright and active eyes, Admiral Lockwood was what you wanted as commander of U.S. Submarine Force Pacific. Having been captain of seven submarines dating back to World War I, Lockwood possessed the supreme knowledge of both the tactics and strategy of submarine warfare. It was he who transformed the Pacific Fleet into an effective warfighting machine. Uncompromising in his demand for results, he was yet a humane man with both an intimate appreciation for the burden submarine warfare placed upon crews, along with a genuine concern for the life of every man under his command. It was this combination of steadfast leadership and unwavering devotion to his men that earned for him their utmost loyalty. O'Kane stands outside Admiral Lockwood's office, rehearsing in mind what he plans to say. A phone rings, shattering the silence. O'Kane twists to look. The secretary lifts the receiver handset to her ear. Yes, sir. She hangs it up and addresses O'Kane. Commander, the Admiral will see you now. O'Kane walks to the door, opens it, and covers and places the bill cap in the crook of his arm. Good morning, sir. I heard one of your sailors ran into a little bit of trouble last night, starts Lockwood. O'Kane lifts his eyes as if receiving a quick punch to the nose. What? You look surprised, Commander. I am, sir. I'm surprised how fast you got the word. Part of my job is to keep abreast of anything that can affect the ability of our subs to take the war to the enemy, and this is a little part of that anything. So, what have you done? The Honolulu Police have been contacted in a crime report file. We'll be conducting training on liberty precautions at the division level. Tang will be instituting a buddy system where no one walks alone. I've already contacted the base administration, and they'll be posting an incident report and warning in their next notice to sailors. Both sailors received only minor injuries and have been patched up by a pharmacist mate. They're good to go for this patrol. Is that it? Lockwood glares at O'Kane, lifting a chin in a knowing look. Oh, yes. The sailor's been given a tetanus shot, sulfur powder, sulfur pills. But if he develops an infection we can't handle, we got a backup man trained, and we'll drop off the injured sailor at Midway when we pull in to refuel. Lockwood acknowledges with a and a nod. Sir, there's one more thing about this sailor, Petty Officer Burke. What he did for that other sailor, torpedo him go. I wish I could put him in for a decoration, at least a Purple Heart. So do I, but it's not combat. Lockwood nods at the manila envelope in O'Kane's left hand. Got something else in mind? You read my mind, sir. I'd like to recommend him for an appointment to the Naval Academy. O'Kane hands him the envelope. Lockwood smiles. Samuel Burke. He pulls a paper from the envelope. I read his fitness reports. Stellar. But give me your gut feel. He's smart. He's steady. Most of all, he's got a good heart. Lockwood reads the recommendation without expression. He looks disinterested. Sure, I can't give a higher recommendation. You don't have to sell me, Commander. Consider it done. In fact, I'll send this through Nimitz. Top brass, highest horsepower. Thank you, sir. Don't thank me, Commander. I've been following Burke myself. He's got what it takes. But Lockwood smiles at O'Kane with a knowing glint in his eyes. I suppose the fact that he made second-team All-American as an outside linebacker at UCLA didn't influence your decision at all. Never crossed my mind, sir, chuckles O'Kane. Though we have to support Navy football, you know. Well, Samuel Burke certainly has a bright future ahead of him. He'll be inducted into the academy come July. Yes, sir. Please, summer, class of 49. Lockwood's expression turns stern. Tell me about this other sailor, Torpedo McGoat. I read his fitness reports as well. Seems somewhat of an anchor. So it would seem. Oh? Goat's kind of a special kid. It's kind of hard to explain, but he has an effect on the entire crew. They've rallied around him. In a way, he pulls them together. And he's become kind of a mascot. On the way to battle stations, as they pass by Goat, everyone messes his hair for good luck. Lockwood's eyes narrow, scrutinizing O'Kane. Understood. Unit cohesion. Nothing more important. O'Kane nods. All right. What's your readiness status for the next patrol? We lost some key men to new construction, but this was anticipated. We got capable replacements trained and qualified during our last patrol. I'm fully confident in their abilities. The men are a bit war-weary, though, having but a week back in port. But we've done our best to clear their heads, and give them some rest. Still, morale is high. There's no better medicine than sinking ships. Agreed. O'Kane continues. We had planned to overhaul all 4 diesels, but due to our short turnaround, we had to postpone. They're in fine shape, though. However, our JP's been temperamental, but we've got dedicated men working on it. Our 4 days of torpedo drills have been excellent. Our solutions have been good, and all torpedoes scored hits. I know. Speaking of torpedoes, they're in short supply at the moment. However, Tambor is having some propulsion issues, which are delaying its deployment. It has 24 Mark 18s, and I'm having them sent to Tang as we speak. Is there anything else you need? O'Kane begins his rehearsed petition. Sir, there's a couple of things. First, we're about to lose our crow's nest with the installation of the new VHF, UHF antennas. Crow's nest? Yes, sir. I've heard nothing about the sort from Buse ships. This must be one of those war zone modifications. You might say that, but it's both effective and safe. It increases our all-around visibility as well as lookout endurance and safety. Plus, the planned antenna installation location on port and starboard wings diminishes our streamlined silhouette and adds additional turbulence. All this can be avoided if they're installed inline, fore and aft. Admiral, Captain Irvin's breathing down my neck to get them installed, as per original design. It's your boat, Commander. Have them installed wherever you want. I'll inform Captain Irvin. What else? Sir, my ship needs a ST scope. Also, Tang has been banging out patrols at nearly twice the customary rate, and I need something to take back to my crew. I like our next upkeep schedule for Mirror Island to install the scope, overhaul the diesels, and give my crew a well-deserved rest. Done. I appreciate everything you say. Lockwood stands, radiates a genteel smile, then shakes hands with O'Kane as if to seal the deal. The thing is, the last 3 patrols to the sector I'm sending you have all come up dry. I know there's plenty of targets out there. It's my belief Tang will find them and put them down. So, I'm going to give you everything you need. Now, what's that Spanish phrase? Oh, yes. Vaya con Dios, Commander. Absolutely, sir. Chapter 17. Steve and Dean. Back on board Tang, it's still early morning. Steve Turner, the lanky but broad-shouldered communications officer, strolls down the passageway, twirling a key ring around his index finger while singing the Cole Porter hit, I've Got You Under My Skin. He passes the wardroom, takes a step backwards, and pops his head through the open door for a curious peek. Dean sits alone, hunched over a cup of coffee, contemplating. Last day before we get in the way. What am I missing? What else needs to be done? Steve storms in. Dino! Steve-o, fires back Dean like a reflex response. Come on, Dean. Stop calling me Steve-o. It just sounds stupid. Yeah, like Dino doesn't? Sounds like the name for a dog. All right, you got me there. Say, I'm heading into town. Got some business to take care of. Want me to pick you up anything on the way back? Nah, I'm okay, but... Dean flashes Steve a knowing grin. Business my ass, you drugstore cowboy. Any money you'd be poolside at the Royal Hawaiian, drinking Mai Tais and picking up on all the pretty girls. No, I only do that on days when I'm duty officer. Dean squints, scrutinizing eyes at Steve. You know, I don't think I've ever met anyone like you. No one even close. Steve grins, bright-eyed, and nods eagerly. Dean snickers. Look at you nod. You ought to be the one named Dino. You look like you're itching to fetch a bone. All guys are dogs, isn't that what they say? Well, you are a strange cat, that's for sure. That's what you like about me. Steve flashes a big cheesy smile, showing a lot of teeth. Shh, wouldn't exactly say that, but you are a mystery. Mystery? Steve screws up his eyes at Dean. Yeah, I've known you for what, 8 months now? But I don't really know you. Nothing behind the mask, buddy boy. Steve lifts his hands to hide his face, then swipes it aside. Just a pretty facade. He grins wide. No, seriously, how did you become you? What, you mean handsome, debonair, witty, and charming? No, I actually meant ugly, toothless, dim-witted, and boring. But yeah, whatever you said. How did Steve Turner become Steve Turner? Steve shrugs and mumbles. I don't know. Suppose it was my father, mostly. Really? I took you more for a mama's boy. Mama's boy, huh? Steve shakes his head and huffs. Want me to tell you the story or not? Sure, go ahead. Dean takes a sip of coffee. This ought to be good. See, my dad was rich. Steve shoves his hands in the pockets and leans against the bulkhead. I mean filthy rich. And we live with other filthy rich people. Kinda made me sick. Really? How so? Steve grimaces. I just couldn't stand all the supercilious bastards with their hoity-toity crap, always looking for ways to look down on everyone else. Dean nods. Yeah, I know the type. They grated on my father as well. One time we're driving to the country club, he turns to me and says, You know, Steve, all these people at the club, all they care about is money and their social status. They're just ego vampires, except the only blood they're sucking is their own. Wow, sounds pretty serious. Always was. Once back in grade school, I beat up the smaller kid. When my dad found out, he whipped me with a switch and locked me in the shed for 3 days without food. Just gave me water and a pot to poop into. What'd your mom say? She screamed bloody murder, but my dad just had this presence, you know. He never backed down, not for anyone. Ooh, exclaimed Steve. Yeah, that's what I said. Anyway, when he finally released me, he told me the strong man doesn't lord it over others or exploit them anyway. He says strength is found only in sacrifice. Huh, interesting. I had no idea what I was saying back then. I suppose I was too young. But there's no quit in the guy. Steve looks down and smirks. He'd say, so long as you're under my roof, I'm going to keep pounding these things into you. He said he wanted to instill within me a sense of noblesse oblige. I said, noblesse what? Never took French, huh? I did, actually. 2 years in high school. Just never learned anything. Dean grins. Yeah, it kind of shows, but go on. All right, my old man. Steve reaches into the overhead, grabs hold of a horizontal pipe with both hands and rests his weight on him. The guy's so stern, full of conviction and all. I tell you, he's humorless. I mean, 100% government-inspected, humor-free. Dean nods his eyes. Come on. Dean narrows his eyes. Come on. No, really. You wouldn't think that humanly possible until you meet my dad. Then you say, whoa, Steve was right. It's actually true. Dean chuckles. It's not so funny. Think of a baby being born without a brain. It's almost that bad. Dean chuckles some more. Steve lets go of the pipe, straightens his posture, and frowns. But the guy has wisdom. I suppose I have to give him that much. He's also widely respected, though he never seeks it. He once told me that Shakespeare wrote that reputation is the eternal aspect of oneself. He said Shakespeare was full of crap. Huh, fascinating. Fascinating, yeah, Steve laughs. He's a strange one, that's for sure. Anyway, since I was a kid, I always saw him as some sort of distant giant, and I was afraid of him. Sounds like he casts a big shadow. He does. Steve looks down and stares with eyes glazed over. I was always afraid of not living up to him, or his expectations. It became like this immense weight on my back. Know what I mean? He looks up at Dean. Dean looks down at the table, nods agreement, then takes a sip of coffee. Boy, this is getting a little heavy. Drove me nuts, continues Steve. Then one day I found a way to relieve the pressure. I'd become a slacker. And then I couldn't fail. It was like I'd fail because I'd choose to. I'd fail on my own terms, not because I couldn't hack it. Dean looks up at Steve. You know, that actually explains a lot. I mean, just look at... Shut up, don't be a jerk. Steve peers at Dean's eyes and grins. And it worked. And all the pressure was gone. And then, before I knew it, I was a senior in high school. I always thought I was such a disappointment to him. But he wouldn't quit. The guy was going to make something out of me whether I wanted to or not. Dragged you kicking and screaming, huh? Yeah, pretty much. So there I was, a senior with a C average. But I scored fairly well in college entry exams. So what does he do? He gets with his buddy, the dean of admissions at Harvard, and gets me in. I'm thinking, Harvard? That's crazy. What am I going to do at Harvard? So guess what I majored in? I don't know, leisure studies? Close. Art history. Drove my dad nuts. It's a terrible one. I majored in art history with a subspecial in Baroque naked ladies. Even my dad's big shot friends at parties. Bet he liked that. Nah, chuckled Steve. But I got a kick out of it anyway. Actually, it was kind of true. But then the war started, and before I knew it, here I am. Steve grins and lifts his arms wide, palms up. Come to think of it, I don't even know how I got here. He looks about the wardroom, turning his head to the left and to the right with a look of, where the heck am I? Dean grins and snorts a laugh. Good old Steve-o. That's my story. So, what makes you tick? Dean shrugs, looks away and mumbles. Nothing. Come on, Dean. He considers for a moment, lifts his cheeks in a grimace, then shakes his head. Nah. Hey, I spilled my guts for you. All right, if you insist. Dean rests his forearms on the formica surface, grips a coffee cup with both hands, looks down and speaks to the table. I grew up poor, dirt poor. The old man was a drunk. He'd go on these rampages, always ended in beating my mom. When I was little, I'd get so scared, I'd hide in the corner, close my eyes, and pray it all in. Then, when I was 13, I tried to stop him. He beat me bad. Dean pulls the coffee cup closer in to his body. But that was okay, because it hurt far worse to watch my mom suffer. So, that became my purpose in life, to take the beatings, to keep them from her. Steve swallows. Dean looks aside and stares at the bulkhead with eyes moist and vacant. You know what the funniest thing about it was? He turns to Steve and forces a smile. Steve shrugs. Well, maybe not so funny. She used to get so ashamed, like it was her fault. When her face was all swollen, black and blue, her lips cut, she put on this big phony smile and wore too much makeup. But it couldn't hide it. Just made her look cheap. I think that was the saddest part of all. Holy smokes, Dean. I shouldn't have pried. Nah, Dean dismisses with a tilt of his head. Well, I suppose we all got skeletons in the closet. Yeah. Steve puts a hand on Dean's shoulder. Cheer up, buddy. Just look at me. I'm the lovable loser, the paragon of underachievement. Dean looks up at him. Don't sell yourself short, Steve. You are a good guy. And who knows, maybe all your dad's efforts will pay off someday. Yeah, I guess you never know. Chapter 18, Noblesse Oblige. It's now mid-morning on a cloudless day. Sailors with sweat-stained shirts labor under the Hawaiian heat, making final preparations for the next patrol. Provisions, fuel, ammunition, spare parts, and torpedoes are being unloaded. The crewmen, burdened under heavy sacks and crates, trudge up and down the gangplank like an endless stream of worker ants. A tangle of power and fuel lines are slung over from the pier and snake across the deck of Tang. From above the bridge and the periscope tower, hot bright sparks from an arc welder shoot out and spray about. Mike Waters, the egghead, still on watch as importer OD, is supervising the unload. Though always anxious to ingratiate himself in the eyes of his captain, Mike fears even more O'Kane's wrath were the refit to fall behind schedule. Therefore, as soon as he got word that Admiral Lockwood's approved the fore-aft antenna installation, he allowed the welders to resume work. The last thing Mike wants is blame for any delay in tomorrow's deployment, especially since that will reflect poorly in his fitness reports. The torpedo unload is about to begin forward. Mike sees Billy and shouts, "Hey, Goat, get over here." Billy walks up. "Yes, sir." "I want you completely out of the way. I don't want you screwing anything up or slowing anything down. I know you don't care, but it's my ass, you know." Billy nods. Mike lifts his chin to sneer down his nose at Billy, then jabs a bony index finger out his chest. "I've only got 18 more years to go till I get 50% retirement rate, and no one's going to screw me out of that. You hear me? So, you're going to stone deck planks aft." He smirks. "Got to get those wood planks scuffed up so no one slips and falls. Someone can get hurt, you know." Mike chuckles with a cynical grin, which transforms into a scowl. "Now, go to the deck boys and fetch a stone and get to work." "Yes, sir." Billy departs. A few minutes later, Billy returns, holding a block of pumice stone about the size of a brick. He heads aft, then on hands and knees begins to scrape the wooden planks with long, even strokes. On the pier, alongside Tang, a gray Ford pickup truck pulls up with several Tang crewmen riding in the bed. They hop out together. They labor to haul a stainless steel contraption off the back, then up the gangplank. When they reach the top, a sweat-soaked Aristotle salutes. "Permission to come aboard, sir." "What's this?" demands Mike as he studies the silver apparatus. "It's an ice cream machine, sir." "Yeah, I figured that, but is it authorized?" "Well, that depends on your definition of authorization." "What do you mean?" Aristotle pulls a pink sheet of paper from his back pocket and folds it to show Mike. "We got a carbon copy of the requisition ship with the captain's signature on it." "Is that right?" Mike snatches the form and scrutinizes it. "Well, yeah, but it's forged." Aristotle glances away from Mike. "Bastard's going to get me in trouble." "Who forged it?" demands Mike. I can neither confirm nor deny that it's forged." "What?" Who are you trying to kid? You just said the captain's signature is forged. Okay, but I didn't say it was me who forged it. Shh, you pretty much just did, you dimwit. Oh, yeah, guess so. But what do you say, sir? Mike wants the ice cream machine as much as anyone, so he shakes his head with fake indignation and relents. Well, all right, bring it aboard. I'll talk to the captain about it. As Aristotle walks past Mike, he looks up at the welders, their fiery sparks flying about, and asks, Sir, shouldn't the smoking lamp be out during refueling operations? Mind your own business. Besides, the captain said this is a priority, and they, Mike points his thumb at the antennas, got to be in before we get in the way. He dips his bulbous forehead towards Mike. You want to tell him? Huh? Aristotle rolls his eyes, turns away, walks on, then mutters under his breath, Lifer. Mike snaps his head toward the pairing Aristotle. I should write him up. I should write that punk up, but it's not worth the trouble. With the forward torpedo load complete, deckhands mill about, waiting for the refueling aft to finish. When the aft fuel tanks are topped off, hose lines are detached and dragged across the deck back toward the pier. Residual oil within the lines leaks out, leaving a slippery trail along the deck. Billy is still hard at work aft on his knees, hunched over, pushing and pulling the stone with both hands, using all his weight to scrape slippery algae off the wood. The aft torpedo onload begins. A gang of men fight against the pole of the rope through block and tackle to hoist a 2,000-pound torpedo from the pier and then swing it over onto Tang. Steve returns from town, bounds up the gangplank. Reaching the top, he salutes and states, Permission to go on board. Mike returns the salute. Permission granted. Steve executes a salute, takes a step, then stops. I tell you what, Mike, it's so hot out here you can fry an egg on the deck. So, what's cooking? Mike, intently facing forward, leers at Steve and nods his head back, roughly in the direction of the torpedo unload being conducted aft. Steve lifts his eyes to look, then heads back for a curious peek. He's immediately struck by the sight of Billy working so precariously close to the torpedo unload. He squints his eyes, scrunches his nose, and says under his breath, What the? But it's too late. Before Steve can act, the first sailor on the line steps on the oil, slips and loses his footing. The sudden loss of the load he was carrying ripples through the rest of the sailors, and they tumble in a chain reaction. The torpedo slams to the deck and begins to roll towards Billy, fast. Steve leaps toward Billy, knocks him out of the way and over the side. Both Billy and Steve splash in the water as a ton of torpedo falls in beside them, just inches away. It was close and could have been their death. Nevertheless, with his incorrigible levity, Steve flashes his emblematic grin and with a suppressed chuckle jokes, Holy halibut, Billy. Seems you can make a contact sport out of just about anything. I suppose that's why you and Bert get along so well. Yes, sir. Steve cups a hand and punches it forward along the surface, playfully splashing water at Billy. Billy smiles. Mike hears all the commotion and hurries aft. He sees what has happened and his mind races. The captain's going to find out. Who'll take the blame? Can I shift it? On who? Better start thinking of a way to recover that torpedo. How long will it take? Is it damaged? On his left wrist, Mike wears a yellow bracelet about like an oversized rubber band. He reaches his right hand across and pulls and twists at the band. Then it comes to him. Luke. That's right. He's duty officer today. He's in charge overall. I can pin it on him. Besides, it's his fault. Only a first-class petty officer supervising the torpedo unload. Should have been at least a chief. So, it wasn't my fault after all. Josh. Mike nods. Yeah, Josh. I could put it on him as well. Assistant duty officer. Why not? Or maybe I can use him.